There we go.
I think we're live.
I think we are. Can anybody hear us? I got nothing in chat. Oh, I got some thumbs up.
Oh,
There
there
we
we go. There
go.
we go.
There we go.
It's flowing through now.
Yep. Now we can see. Sweet, sweet. What you been up to, man?
Not much, man. Just it's been a rainy day where I'm at. This week's been busy, working on EDR stuff, next quarterly goals. I know you've been cooking on a lot of stuff. So how are you been?
Good, good. Just constantly trying to move forward. I got massive velocity boost from this thing called Claude. We talked about that on here last month before, or something like that. It's pretty dope. It does a lot of cool stuff.
You've been Claude codifying it everywhere?
Yeah, I will say I went from like I wasn't like anti-AI, but I was like, hey, like I've tried it, didn't really work. It was kind of a lot of people's sentiment. Something changed like with the models around like December time frame. And I saw people starting to say, hey, it didn't used to work as well, but now it's really good. So I was like, you know what, let me try it. And I've just like been full on and yeah, game changer. I'm pretty AI pilled, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I was about that was gonna be my next question. Would you consider yourself AI pilled or like
I
close
think
to
so.
AI pilled?
I think so. Like I've not manually written a line of code in over a month, maybe a month and a half. And in that time frame, I've probably done 10 times as much work as I used to do.
Wow.
So it's serious.
Yeah, that's a crazy spike, I will say.
Yeah. So yeah, for those who are curious, no Kyle today. He's out gallivanting somewhere. But we got the one, the only, I guess he's over
J
here. The
Johnny Johnson, yeah.
legendary
I'm
Johnny
really
Johnson.
Kyle for the next hour. So I'm literally the Huntress CEO for the next hour. So I don't know if
Oh,
that comes with
dangerous.
decision-making power, but
Dangerous. All right, let's get some slides going here. All right, Zoom, don't fail me now.
I can see it.
Fantastic.
Looks good.
It worked. How do I open chat again? There we go, chat. Sweet. All right, so this is Product Lab. Welcome back. For anybody who's new here, Product Lab is where we kind of riff and talk about all the interesting stuff that we've either just recently released or that we're working on. Some of it may never be released. It's just like proof of concepts. We kind of try to give you a, look behind the scenes of like, hey, here's the cool stuff that we're doing, and this is what we've seen. So, with that, let's talk about what we're going to get into today. We're going to talk about some new releases, that stuff that we actually did release and straight out of the lab. We're going to talk about R&D and how it's research and it does not always work exactly the way you want it to. We're going to talk about AI agents being everywhere. We're getting to like OpenClaw and some of these other things, which is a super hot topic right now. We'll talk about one of the ways we're looking at getting to them. And I'll show you some interesting stuff that we're doing with our app control product under ESPM and detecting rogue RMM agents. So let's get into it. That's a good point. Before we do, there's usually some cursing involved here, some swearing, many jokes, but things you may want your kids not to hear. Or if you're in a public place, maybe you don't want everybody to hear it. So, if that's the case, headphones we recommend. Let's get into the new stuff, even without Kyle. Yeah, it's a culture thing. We all do it. All right, provisioning write APIs. So we've had read APIs in the portal for a long time. It was like, oh, you can query this, you can see what hosts you have, what users you have, incident reports, all that kind of stuff. But we didn't have write queries. Mostly we did that because it was like, hey, we don't want like if you lose your API key, We didn't want somebody to be able to go in and like turn Huntress off, or if they compromised an endpoint and got the API key. We didn't want to do that. So we did some updates actually to like API keys, and so every API key didn't have all the permissions. Now you have like RBAC and stuff. But we've actually added write APIs. So you can do things like have automations that create accounts, organizations, users, all that good stuff. If that is something you are interested in, check out the docs. And then, yeah, let us know if you got any feedback. Yes, tags, that is something that we should get to. We will relay that to the team so that you can add tags to your agents. All right, notification categories. So for a long time, we've had incident reports. We added escalations, and I think we didn't do a great job of explaining what escalations were. These are really cases where, like, something has happened, we're looking at something, and we're not really sure if it's malicious or not, right? It could be. Imagine, like, we see an RMM installed. That could just be an MSP or somebody doing remote management. It could also be an attacker. We don't really know in some cases. Now, in other cases, if we see it running from like a super shady location, yeah, we can make some educated guesses here, but sometimes we don't really know, or it might be some other thing that we're trying to get some information on. And people actually took these and thought escalations were like the most critical thing, more than an incident report. So we did a not great job kind of explaining what it is, like what those were supposed to do. But we also found that there was a lot of stuff getting lumped into these escalations, which didn't really need some sort of user feedback. So we broke those out. We now have new notification categories. So we have like platform actions, which are like you need to do something. Maybe you need to install something or reinstall something or give some extra permissions or something like that. And then there's account notice. And these are things that are not really actionable. They're not reviewed by the SOC, but just like FYI, there's a thing. So, um, yeah, you can go in and you can actually configure those. Where do you want them to go? Do you want them? You can turn them off. Like if you find out, hey, these account notices aren't useful to me, you can actually go turn them off in the configuration. So this is pretty cool. We now have like Gmail, report a fish. There's a little button in your sidebar. You can click it and it will say like, hey, you want to report this as phishing, and you can report it. And if it was a fish from us, if we fished you, you get a nice little thing here with Didi saying, hey, you got me. So it's like a great feedback for your users where they can start to see if it's not from us, it'll kind of go into that bucket of, hey, this was reported as a user fish. Super cool. What I found out today is not only is this in the browser, but if you use the Gmail mobile app, it's in there too. So very cool. Love this kind of stuff from the team.
I think the mobile app is one of the sickest things, actually, just because I did not know that existed either. I thought it was purely through the browser.
Yeah. Yes, Elijah. This is only available if you subscribe to security awareness training. Correct. Man, new simulation. I love these simulations. Somebody the other day was talking about they didn't know we had these, and they said, we should like gamify some of this like education and stuff. Here you go. We did it. So these are kind of our way of trying to gamify it, trying to do some of the things that we couldn't do. Like we can't send phishing SMS. Like it's technically not allowed. We could do it through like our Twilio account, but if they find out, they'll ban us, and then we won't get a new account, and then we won't be able to send uh, SMS for incident reports and critical incidents and stuff like that. So we had to create like how do we simulate that in a kind of an interesting environment, allow us to control the environment, like whether emails are coming in or things you can choose on your computer. And the easiest way was just to like, hey, let's make this as a simulation. We can make it kind of like a game. It'll be fun, interesting. I'll say not everybody loves these. Some people are like, eh. Some users are like, I don't like it. We've got feedback about like the time. We usually put a timer on there again, gamification, try to build up some interest and excitement. Um, but I would say there's a ton of people who also love these. So we got a new one out. It's all about smishing. which is SMS. And so we couldn't do that through obviously Twilio. So we can do it here, and you're going to learn about Bitcoin and maybe earn some DD coin. Super dope. And you can see kind of what it looks like here. You can choose what kind of message you want to send, who you want to send it to, and then you'll find out whether or not they fell for it. I love this image. It's like of this text message. It just looks like, I don't know. The colors are better. It looks
Not,
sweet.
yeah, I feel like not only are like the simulations, all that stuff, like so cool with that. The design, in my opinion, is out of this world. Like I just think it's very catching to the eye. It's not boring. I have to do trains all the time, and a lot of them are like, okay, cool. How do I get through this? But this at least entices me to look at the screen a little bit and not just wait till the end to do a quiz.
Yeah, exactly. So here's a little bit of the behind the scenes. You can see like the sketches and how they came together in terms of like the actual characters and the design there, which is cool. We went through a bunch of different exploration of concepts of how should it look and how should things be laid out? Does this make sense? Is this confusing? So there's like a lot of behind the scenes work that goes into like making these things, which I think is super cool. Again, so yeah, so you can take that. You can see if you go to like economics of cybercrime, you can choose the threat simulator. So if you have not, take a look at that. We got economics of cybercrime, smishing 2, super interesting. Let us know what you think. Manage sim. You've been asking for this for quite a while of like, hey, how do we save our queries and run them so we don't have to like retype the same thing so that we can share them with our team, all that kind of stuff. We had a little bit of that in there before, but we've made it much easier to use. It's right by where you're kind of like in the UI where you're searching. You can query them. You can search your saved queries to find that thing that you're looking for if you got a bunch of them. And then we just make running them super easy. So lots of data in SIM. More and more people are starting to use SIM to like search for non-security things. So this will be a big help there. We also broke out some of the things within SIM. So we have this ECS, which is not a concept we created, is actually something created by Elasticsearch. It's basically just like, hey, here's how you format data in a consistent way that's going to allow you to match across the users taking actions or IP addresses or host names or email addresses, all that kind of stuff. So you can see related events, all that kind of great stuff. So we broke it out. We got a nice like ECS Explorer here, so you can see how all of the data breaks down, where it's nested, all that kind of good stuff. And some of the cool things that we've released, we connect. You may not have known this. A lot of people didn't know this. We connect with SentinelOne, CrowdStrike, and Cisco AMP. And so when those platforms generate alerts for potential incidents, we will pick them up into our SIM. They then go through basically a detection and filtering logic to decide whether or not they're actually bad and need to be reported on. And if they're bad, then they go to the SOC, where the SOC can review them and do deeper investigations leveraging our data that we have. So it's a one-way thing. They send data to us, we look at it. We're not managing through their UI or calling their APIs to like mark things as reviewed or anything like that. Case insensitive searches. Those are always useful. Got a lot of requests for that. And we got a new blog post out. So if you're trying to better understand how does SIM protect you, what are the things it does, why would you want to buy it, why would your customers want to buy it, go check out that blog. You want to talk about this one, Johnny?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that we see all the time is that we might have a customer that's leveraging ITDR, and then we have the same customer leveraging EDR. A fellow researcher and myself, we dove into what it would mean to bring those two things together in terms of correlation. If a user did something bad, let's say an EDR. Could we identify what their ITDR user was, potentially disable it? And so this is the whole process here, thought process is how do we link between these two products, identify the identity that's being done, and then also try to do something about that once we've seen bad happen. And so this is really early stages, but we have found a really good way of how to enumerate that on the endpoint, as well as do that in the ITDR realm. And so it's really exciting to see this because customers that are going to have both, let's say you have a user who's running like Mimikatz, and we're like, oh no, that's bad. We don't want that. Well, and let's say they're tied to ITDR as well. Well, we can disable that, and we can move forward that way. So that way you kind of have like a full sense of security that that user is no longer in flight with their sessions.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of this is like platformatization, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, if we have EDR data and we have ITDR data, how can we leverage the fact that we have both of those things, connect them, and make inferences about, this user is this user over here, and what does it mean if something happens with them or this endpoint or whatever, right? It's really like you could have separate products, but if they're all together, you get much more benefit.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a huge step forward for us. That way we're starting to link multiple products together. And I think it's exciting.
Yep. Cool.
In EDR as well, we have the ability now to manage Defender exclusions really at scale and in bulk now. You can remove multiple exclusions along with allow them. This is nice because previously, obviously, it was more of like a one by one, and now it's you can do these more in a bulk fashion, and that's going to be super nice for those who are trying to manage Defender inside of the platform.
Hell yeah.
This is this is where we really start cooking. I mean, we're EDR has been trying to work on a lot of things, especially Q4, Q1. And one of those things that we're seeing all the time. I mean, you've seen it in other product labs. You've seen it when we've talked about it in blogs. Like we see ransomware, we see people bringing their own vulnerable drivers to disk, and we wanted to make sure that we are having eyes whenever that was blocked. There's multiple ways from a technical perspective by which we could have done so. However, what we're doing now in EDR is we're actually connecting to the code integrity logs. For those that don't know, Windows has the driver block list that is enabled by default. I think it's like Windows 1803 and above. If I got that number right off the top of my head, I'm gonna be so proud of myself. But I think it's 1803 and above. Um, it's it's enabled by default, meaning it goes through a WDAC policy, meaning that any driver that's in that block policy should be blocked from loading. So we're tapping into that, and we're seeing that, and we're able to alert customers when that happens. The nice thing as well is not only are we seeing blocks, but we are seeing those policies for which they're in audit mode as well. So let's say theoretically you have the policy in audit mode because you'd like to see the events. We collect that, and if we see a driver that was loaded, let's say TrueSight, that's a very common one. We see that loaded, you're going to start getting alerted on that. You're going to start seeing, and we want to, you're going to start seeing reports of that, and we want to start tying actions to those as well. So that means we remediate the file, remediate the driver once that happens. Could we unload the driver, et cetera? So those are all different things that we're exploring while looking into this. But it's a huge step in the right direction for us in getting that visibility and bringing that to you all. And it's also nice if you have like an old software, you have a user that's using a super old software with a vulnerable driver. You might want to know about that because that's how people get hit pretty often now, especially when people are dropping it to disk.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think is most useful from this, because people could probably say, well, if it was blocked, why do you care? If a vulnerable driver has been loaded, like Johnny said, it could be just old software, but a lot of times that is indicative of an attacker who's trying to gain additional privileges, get to controlling the kernel. We've seen this, and actually in a couple of episodes back of Product Lab, we talked about some of these frameworks for bypassing and killing EDR. The way they do it is load a vulnerable driver, and then they can kill the process from kernel. So just knowing that something was loaded, even if it was blocked, allows the analyst to say, hey, something might be up here. Like, where did this come from? Let's do a little bit more digging here.
Well,
Um,
it might give early indication to your point, Chris, that an attacker has got a foothold in on the environment because they're going to try to load this driver pretty early on in the attack chain. That way they can turn off any EDR that's sitting there. So
yep,
it lets us know things are happening a lot sooner.
yep, love it. All right. So we talked about R&D and all the cool things we're doing. Question some people are probably asking is like, does it ever fail? And I'd love to say we were 100% and things always work out the way we think they will, but this is research, and it doesn't always. But that doesn't mean it's a complete failure. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think so back in 2025, we explored this concept of PEDR, as, preventative endpoint detection response. Because, one thing we never really had done at Huntress, to be frank, is the fact that we see something and we make a decision on the agent. Like it was never analyst S, meaning like we didn't need to make a decision without an analyst. So we wanted to kind of we wanted to kind of explore that. And that was a pretty big endeavor because we were seeing a lot of attackers uh, with ransomware. We saw it so much last year. I mean, we were seeing Akira, Lockbit, Medusa, etc. And we had a lot of questions. Okay, we're tired of seeing this happen. Is there a way that we could not only see the ransomware sooner in the attack chain before encryption, but if we could, is there something we could do about that without sending off to an analyst, getting their approval and come down because we were noticing that ransomware is happening so quick. It was crazy. So we tossed this over into research. And what we found was quite interesting. A lot of these ransomware actors they perform what we like to call, a preparation phase before encryption. And this is simply how do I, you know, how do I make sure that my encryption or my ransomware is going to work or give the highest level of success, right? And so, could we target those behaviors? And the answer was yes, we could absolutely, because whenever we saw this trend, we decided to build this thing called the disruption engine. And what you see here is this is from my own lab. What's cool here is we now have built inside of the agent basically like a micro behavioral engine that looks at rules and based off of that, and it's not just like singular things. You see at the very top, that's a command line based rule. Well, there's also different objects. It's not only process based. There's other objects like files, for example, we look at. And these things can actually join, let's say something happened a minute or two ago and then we see another action. Okay, well, those two things shouldn't be happening within that amount of time. That's weird. And so now we can take action on that, and we can perform some type of remediation or mitigation. So that's what you see here. The first top level. This is just an example of me running Akira locally, and you see that ransomware was being performed. And you also see that the actions were that the process was killed and also the parent process was killed because we want to make sure that, cool, we killed the process that's doing it. Could we kill the parent as well? Just because maybe try to remove that a little bit. You see the same thing whenever with the file objects, the file rights. And so we start to see this more often, and this was very exciting for us. If you go to the next slide, actually, it was I would say it was convenient for Product Lab, not so great that this happened. Um, was we actually saw this happen in the wild this morning, unfortunately. And so what we saw here is that we see that there's multiple different behaviors that hit. You see the impaired defense and inhibit recovery. That was cool because that's that preparation, changing the recovery settings on the machine, and then seeing the command line fire as well. And we see that we were able to terminate. What's interesting about this example, though, so whenever little side tangent, a little side thing. Whenever we first built this, the scope was very simple. It was local ransomware only, right? If you notice, if you scroll back one real quick, Chris, if you look at the command line here with win.exe, right? You see it's just, this is very common for Akira, right? And then you scroll back to the next one. You see the difference is that there's a dash remote. And one thing about Akira is if you see dash remote, that means they're trying to do encryption over SMB. So what was interesting was our scope for this engine was actually local ransomware, which we're cooking a little something up for SMB too. We're cooking something up. But right now it was only for local. What was interesting is we were able to catch the remote because what we saw here is that they actually performed remote ransomware on the same machine. And why that happened, why they decided to do that, I don't really know. If, maybe they were trying to be more successful. But what was interesting was we knew this worked because they attempted to write this w.exe, execute it literally 12 times. And we terminated that process 12 times. However, if you go to the next slide, this is what's interesting about research. Innovation and research, it's really progression and stepping stones. We would love to be right as soon as we deploy something and be like, yes, this is going to stop all the things. The reality, though, is that's not always going to be the reality. Sometimes there's trial and error because you can only do so much in a lab environment. So you have to push these things out. You have to start killing things to know, did we kill it well? Did we kill it soon enough? What did we do? And unfortunately, what you see here is that although we were able to kill the processes and maybe disrupt and maybe annoy the attacker, there was still some encryption on the machine. And so now what we do, specifically what I do, because this is my job, is I package up this information and I try to identify, okay, where could we have done this a little sooner? For example, the actions that we performed was like, we killed the process, we killed the parent. Could we have remediated the file automatically? That way the binary is no longer there. Could we have isolated the host automatically? Which I'm curious if some people were willing to put in the chat, if you had the ability for us to, if we identify with a high efficacy ransomware, are you comfortable with us isolating the host automatically without sending it to a SOC analyst? I think that is a direction that we definitely want to move. I'm seeing some awesome answers in the chat. That's good to hear. So that's where we want to move. And so we wanted to showcase this and just be super transparent with you all that what we're building is working, but it might not be working to where we think is the standard. And so how do we take something that's working, fail forward a little bit, and make it even better? So we wanted to show that off. Chris, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think this is awesome. I mean, this is like we said, like we're doing the research. It is, you can see there are clear benefits here. It's not 100%. We got to kind of go back, tweak it, retool it, figure out some of those edge cases, do some more with it. There was a question, is this available now for all Huntress EDR endpoints?
Yes.
Oh, sweet. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if it was turned on for just a subset or all of them, but
Yep.
sounds like all of
And
them.
we're
That's
updating
awesome.
these. We're updating the behavioral engine rules literally daily, weekly. So we are like taking these things, adding, and as time goes on, we're going to be adding like things like remediate file and isolate host. That's awesome to hear that you all are wanting the isolate factor because like we've been back and forth. Is like our customers going to be cool with that, and so I'm definitely going to be taking that to product. So
Yeah.
that's great to hear.
Yeah, Brian, it should just be automatically on. You don't have to
Yep.
turn it on.
Yeah.
Anything that's gonna like help you and prevent stuff, we're gonna turn it on for you. And if you find some need, you can go turn it off. But
Yeah.
we're
You
not
can,
gonna put it in there and say, well, you should have known to come and turn this thing on. That's kind of crazy talk.
yeah. You can definitely go turn it off if you wanted to, but it's on by default.
Yeah.
So.
So I'm curious. Let me know in chat. Are you guys familiar with AI agents? Have you seen all the crazy stuff that's going around? What people are doing? Not even just coding agents, but we got all kinds of agents.
Oh my goodness, it's crazy. Especially the fact that Claude just dropped this week remote control, which by the way, I saw this and the first thought that went through my head was we're cooked, which is why I put this great meme in here, which is chat, we are cooked. Because I mean, just imagine now, Chris, theoretically, let's say instead of like an attacker dropping initial payload and pulling an install script or doing something like that, why don't they just drop a Claude link? And now
Right.
do they need to proxy out to a C2? Or could they just have Claude do the thing for them?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
you don't even need malware. You just ask Claude to do it. And if it doesn't have the capabilities, you ask it to like write a script to do it.
Yeah, 100%. It's crazy. And so we're seeing this all the time. I mean, users, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I have I have Claude code on my machine that do I run it as administrator sometimes? I plead the fifth. But we see it all the time now that users are going to be leveraging AI, whether that's OpenClaw, whether that's Claude Code, ChatGPT Cursor. I know Cursor is a massive one now as well. Uh,
Yeah.
it's definitely a scary thing to see, and we are going to see remote control used for lateral movement. We are going to see it as an
Yeah.
initial access vector. So, what do we do about that?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, so we talk about Cloud Code and stuff. There's this other one, OpenClaw. It had different names. It was originally named Claude, and then for like a day, it had a different name, which was Molt. And then
I didn't know
they
it's called
renamed it
mold.
again. Yeah, yeah, because they were like, oh, a lobster, it sheds its shell, it molts. So we'll call it
Oh,
MoltBot.
yeah.
Uh,
I
and
wouldn't
that's
have
where you
known
got
that.
Molt Book. Yeah, so if
Mm,
you haven't seen Molt Book, it's like Facebook, but for AI agents where they can just go and like talk to each other and complain about their users, I guess. I don't know.
yeah.
So yeah, OpenClaw is interesting. So if you haven't heard of this, it's basically like you're running, it's kind of like a Claude Code thing where it can control the computer, it can like ma manage your inbox for you and send emails and change your calendar and all kinds of stuff. And you can talk to it over like all these things. You can like text it, you can send it Telegram messages, you can send it Slack messages, and it's like your AI assistant. It's meant to do whatever. But the concern there is it can do anything. And so like if your users are running this, there's already been vulnerabilities that have been found in this. If somebody else can send like a Slack message as that user or any of these kind of things, what else can happen? Attackers can use it. Imagine now their attackers C2 is just like a Discord channel. Scary, I guess. Right. So there's all these kind of things, and we're entering this new era of just like what do we do about these things?
Yeah, it's actually it's incredibly crazy because I think what we're going to see, and we're seeing it already, is exactly what this slide shows. It's like AI agents literally live everywhere. Not only are there custom ones, you might have agentic controls. You're going to see things in the browser. Like if you have Edge today, open that puppy up, go to the right hand corner, and you have Copilot just chilling there.
Yep.
And so you have
Yep.
that ability today, and so it's going to be widespread, and it's actually crazy how much traction it has gotten in the past like 6 months to even a year.
Yep. Yeah, Rich just pinged us and said, so Rich is our PM for our ITDR product. He said they've found 65 instances of OpenClaw with access to Microsoft 365 tenants across our install
Wow.
base. That is full read and write to the tenant SharePoint.
Yeah. Wow.
Woo, that's scary. Yeah, so I actually stole a slide from a company called Cyberhaven. They were blogging about some of this, and it kind of breaks out like what is the stuff that humans do versus AI agents, and where does it go? I think the most scary part here, though, as we've been talking about, is definitely on the right-hand side, if not the upper right-hand side. You talked about browsers with AI in there. There's whole AI browsers now. What are we doing about shadow AI? Like, even if your company doesn't use Claude Code, are the users, right? Are they just spending $200 a month and then connecting it to all your services? A lot of them, it's super easy because a lot of services just allow a user to create an API key for themselves to do stuff. And previously, that was kind of low risk because most users didn't know how to write code and didn't know how to connect it. But now they can just say like, "Hey, Claude, I want you to connect to this thing and do this," and it'll say, "Oh, go do this, this, and this, and give me the API key." And like they can do it. So it's kind of crazy. We're getting into this whole new era of security. And the challenge that we have here, I think the biggest challenge is like it's really hard to discern legitimate use versus malicious use and risk here, right? Like if we see Claude Code running, we can't just kill it. Like it could like legitimately be a thing. Like maybe somebody installed OpenClaw and they allow that and they use it. Maybe not, you know. So we're gonna have to figure some of this stuff out. But I'm curious. What do you guys think? I was reading some of chat. It seems like some people haven't been seeing it yet, but are you seeing this? Are your users using this? Have they requested it?
Or even if they were to use it, would that be a concern for you?
Yeah, right. All right, Jeff's saying they block
Oh,
it.
interesting.
Yeah. Why don't we handle AI like we handle VPNs? It's a very good question, Matt. It's almost like we thought of that. Yes,
Yeah.
sir, we did. So, show you a little bit of unreleased stuff here. So, this is something that Johnny's been cooking up. It's a little R&D. Again, this may make it into the product in one form or another. It may not, but we're trying to see what data is out there, what's happening. So, Johnny, you want to tell us about what you've been working on?
Yeah, absolutely. As these agents become more and more prevalent, it kind of made me think, if could we see AI agents that were installed? Could we see credentials? Like, for those that don't know, like Claude Code, if you're using like an API, that's actually stored in config. So credentials or API keys are there, which is not great. And then what sessions are currently running? Could they be stopped? Could we see sessions running as a non-standard user? Not that I would be guilty of this, but theoretically, let's just say. And so like we start to ask these questions of, okay, what would this mean? Because this would even go back to cloud remote control, right? Of we don't want to see the stuff, or you might want to block it or not have that. So if you do one click, Chris, I worked on this thing called AI Scraper. Now, listen, I'm not the greatest at making names. Okay, literally in my head, I thought AI, I thought scrape. If this ever makes it into ESPN, this is probably not going to be the name. But one thing it does is it looks it basically, I mean, it literally scrapes and queries an endpoint to see what type of agents, what type of tools are sitting there, what is currently configured, but also are there currently any running sessions, and it'll return process ID or process IDs related to that session as along with the user level. So is this a standard user? Is it an administrator? What is this? And what's nice about this too is at the top on the right, you'll see endpoints with AI tools. You see a percentage of how many endpoints your fleet has that is running AI tools, and you get to understand what that looks into. If you go into, well, one thing, what's nice is on the right-hand side, what I built was stop session. And what this will go do is it'll go create a task on the endpoint and says, bye bye. It'll terminate the process tied to that session and actually just stop it altogether. And then if you click real quick, Chris, there's actually a detailed page here that goes into what credentials are exposed, what other process IDs,
Yep. Yep.
what config files are all there. And it'll show you on the right hand side, for some reason, when you launch Cursor, it starts so many processes, it's crazy. And so like here, I could stop 14 processes that are launched here. And so you could start to go through and do that. You could start to say, hey, you're not supposed to be running AI tools. Bye bye. And so yeah, this was a little R&D. Again, don't know if it's going to make it. However, it was a fun little project to work on. I built this literally. I think I got this. I think I pinged you, Chris. What it was Monday or
Last week.
Tuesday. I was
Yeah.
like, "You want to see something sick?" And then
Yeah, yeah.
this was it.
If it's not called a scraper, I don't want it. Love it.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's a great example of like stuff that we're just constantly trying to figure out what's the bleeding edge? What's
Yep.
next? How can we find some data there? Do we have the data? Is there something that we can do about it? So super cool. In other innovation, I wanted to show you off some interesting stuff that we've been looking at for ESPN. And this is specifically like application control capabilities, where we've known for a while that rogue RMM tools were a massive issue. If you haven't seen, we recently just put out a threat report, massive threat report. Looks awesome. Huge shout out to the team for putting this all together. But there's also a big section in there about like just how often we see RMMs abused, which ones that we see, all that kind of stuff. It's super great. Um, and so if you haven't seen that, I would say go grab that. I don't have a link for you, but there's probably somebody in marketing that can drop one in chat.
Chris, quick
So
question.
yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
think anybody is going to remove RMMs and move towards remote Claude? Just out of curiosity.
No, I don't think so. It'd be pretty expensive. The number of tokens you'd eat up just to like do basic stuff,
Token
probably super
smoking, you
expensive.
know what I mean? Who cares about tokens?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe Claude as a remote management tool for the rich. I don't know.
You,
You got to be a
you gotta
billionaire, I
you gotta
think.
get the unlimited plan. It's like your cell phone plan. You gotta just get unlimited tokens.
Yes. Let me know how much that costs.
Yeah.
So, if we want to know about like RMMs, we want to go and block them. We've got some of our own data, but there's also some community projects that I wanted to point out because we actually leverage some of these to kind of like extend the data that we already have. So one of them is called LOL RMM. LOL stands for Living Off the Land. We've talked about this before. I know that we've talked about this on Tradecraft Tuesday. There's LOL bins, which are like known legitimate Microsoft binaries that are signed by Microsoft and all that that you can leverage in ways that allows you to do nefarious stuff and bypass AV detections and EDRs and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of the first project, and then it spun off a bunch of these. So this one is specifically about tracking all the different RMMs. What are the process names, what paths are they installed on, all that kind of stuff. You can see here one that's also talked about is LOL drivers. That's going to be your vulnerable drivers that attackers can then leverage to do other stuff. So we started there, pulled in some of that data to try to get us going. There's also another project. So if you just Google for GitHub Hotcake X, she has done a ton. She actually has a tool that will allow you to kind of build and manage some of your own application control policies for WDAC. And she's also got a file in there that has all kinds of paths for blocking RMMs. So this is great. I've talked with her a few times, given her some feedback, passed over some data. But we also use this as, one more thing to include in there to help us find and identify RMMs to ideally block them. So I built out some functionality to do this for a bunch of the accounts that we have that have application control turned on where we're collecting that data. And so it starts to map file names, file paths, signing certificates, all of that kind of stuff to these applications. And then that allows us to say, okay, for a given account or for a given host or a given organization, what RMM tools does it have there and how many of them? And so this morning I was questioning, like, wait a minute, I wonder how many of these have more than one. So I did a little research, queried a little database, and I found that there are 23 accounts that we have where they have more than two RMM tools installed. And you can see, like, there are 9 of them that have two. There are 5 accounts that have 3 RMM tools. But then you got this one down here at the bottom with 11 RMM tools installed across this account, and you look at what they are, it's like any desk, any viewer, a Terra. Like we got Imibot in here, Go to PC, Kaseya, Log Me In, Team Viewer. Like it was almost like somebody was like, "Can I install every RMM that is like available?" It just is crazy. I did not expect this. I definitely expected we would see accounts with like 2. Maybe it would be like a co-managed situation where it's like the MSP has one, and the end customer also does some of their own management or something, and so like they have different ones. But Holy cow, I did not expect this many accounts to have multiple RMMs. So,
It's one of those things I'm curious if like a situation happens like free trial ran out. Okay, next one. Free trial ran out. Next one. And just kept going.
maybe, maybe. Or maybe these are like end users who are like, hey, I want to like work from home, but like I need my work desktop, so I'm just gonna install my own thing
Yep.
that I read about somewhere on the internet, and then like you
I have
just
never
get, I
heard
don't
of
know.
I'm my it's I'm my bot. I thought it was I'm me bot. I need to learn
I
how to
think
read.
I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Imibot. It's actually made
Okay.
by a guy who used to be, or maybe he still is doing MSP stuff, but it's like workflow kind of automation. You can have all these like scripts to help you provision things and stuff.
Wow.
It's legit. It's good. So I'm curious, what does your environment look like? Do you truly know? Like how many of these remote management tools do you have in there? It could be a lot. Let's see. We got people saying no Symantec PC anywhere. Tim, I'm sure it's in there. We just maybe haven't run across a machine with it yet. I don't know. All of this data is from the last 2 days. So it's not like these are old and aren't running. All of these have run in the last 2 days. So they're still active on these machines. I know we don't have 11. Yeah, you hope. Windows 98. Yes. So the question then kind of becomes like, is this a big deal? Like, how big of a deal is it? Turns out it's a massively big deal. So I asked Dre, he's one of our analysts over on the SOC team. He does a lot of hunting, a lot of advanced stuff. Um, I said, hey, like, like, is this a problem? Are these remote RMMs? Is this something we're seeing for rogue RMMs? They went and did some research. They found that 45% of the incidents that our SOC reports are based or have at least some component of a rogue RMM involved. Which is just insane to think of. Like, if we solve this problem, if we block all of these, we get rid of the ability to run these rogue RMMs, half of the workload of our SOC disappears. That's crazy. Like, that's a huge issue.
That's a crazy stat.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I mean, like Dre said, he had to triple check this. So, like, he also couldn't believe it. So, this is where, we've done some stuff for like app control. We have the ability to push out policies, create allow policies. But once we kind of realized this, we pivoted to say, hey, how can we first at least block these rogue RMMs, and then get to building out the allow list because this seems to be the biggest driver of issues within our customer base, at least.
Yeah. I think it's cool how he's talking too about like the stat that it's often in the downloads folder. Downloading one
Yeah.
and then executing it that way. That level
Yeah.
of detail in the data is super important for us.
That's probably phishing related, right? It's
Yeah.
probably somebody saying, "Hey, your PC's broke. I need to do something. Download and run this thing," right? And so
Yeah.
that's probably why it shows them their downloads folder.
And what AV is going to trigger on a RMM just launching.
Yeah. Crazy. So, but this is not without its challenges. As Andrew was correctly pointing out today, how can you block RMMs if you don't know which ones are legit and which ones are wrong? And does the IT department or does the MSP even know which ones are legit? They might know which ones they're using, but do they know which ones the customer is using? Are there ones that an end user is using legitimately, but maybe they're working from home or they're traveling or something like that? If we just go in and start blocking these, we could disrupt stuff. Like we could break people's processes. We could break um, their like lines, for production, their remote management. So we got to be kind of careful about how we do this, which is probably starts with let's identify the RMMs that are there. block everything else, and then we can review that list and say like which one should be here, and how do we like reduce this list from 11 to say like 2 or maybe 3. Oh, let's see. Kevin says he thinks the disruption would be worth it for visibility. Oh, free PDF reader with Datto RMM. At least Huntress stopped it. Okay, that's good. I gotta feel less bad.
Block them then allow should be easy to address. I wonder if that would like fit within like some type of exclusion that kind of like defender exclusions that we have.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So yeah, that is what we got for you today. So love to see it. Oh, yes. You know what I just remembered, Johnny?
What?
So I think you've been here with us for these. We've been talking about how do we pick people to win prizes, right?
I remember how I did
And
it
it's
last time.
always been an issue. We've always said like, oh, we gotta just like go through Slack. I made a thing. Okay.
Oh,
Claude made a thing. I told it to make a thing. That's just kind of like me making a thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It's really you making the thing.
We'll go with that. We'll
Yeah.
go with that. So now I have a thing that should automatically just pick a random person from this webinar. Let us see if it works. Let's do this together even.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think we
We're
can screen
cooking.
share. I think we can. Let me try it first and make sure that like I'm not going to give away anything on this screen share, because that'd be bad. Like people might come for me.
I remember the last time
Uh,
we did it, I just had everybody spam that Windows was the best OS, and I just picked whoever said that.
that is true. I do remember that. Uh, let's see if I can run this here.
Oh, here we go.
We got a poll going on.
Want to talk with Huntress?
Do you want to talk with us with the
Yes.
sales team? Heck yeah. Oh yeah. Or not today. Nobody's picking not today. Let's come on. Let's be honest here.
I like how everyone's still spamming that Windows is the best. Guys, this is not how we're picking it today. Although the people who said you would not have been chosen, I will just say.
All right. It looks like we can screen share. Let's do this because this is the hotness. We have the technology. You know that?
There we go.
Let me make sure I screen share the right thing here. This window's in the way. What's happening here? All right. How do I not screen? Okay, let me stop screen share and try to screen share the other thing. One day, guys, I'll figure out how to use Zoom. Don't worry about it.
He's cooking. He's cooking.
Yeah, let it cook. There we go. All right. Like any good hacker, you got to use the terminal, right? So we got Zoom Picker, and Zoom Picker allows us to list webinars, history. So let's list webinars. Querying Zoom. Look at that. Product Lab February.
Okay.
Now we can pick, and we got to give it this ID here.
This is a weird looking PowerShell terminal, Chris.
Oh, this is not PowerShell, my friend. This is ghosty.
I
Look
know.
at that. We got a winner. Chris Wales. We got us a winner. 164 participants. 161 are eligible. That should be 164 because there shouldn't be any existing winners in here, but figure that out. Yeah. So we got one winner. Let's pick another one because that was so fun. Oh, Jen. Jen works
Jen?
here. Jen can't win.
Yeah. Sorry, Jen. You're the best.
There we go. Tracy Rats. So we got us two winners. Chris Wales, Tracy Rats. Let's go.
Let's
And
go.
we no longer have to like jankily pick from chat. Like we got a tool.
I don't know. I feel like I had a good process before, but I mean, I guess this works as well.
This works too. It's fine.
Yeah.
So there we go. Thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. We look forward to seeing you next time. And yeah, we'll be here next month.
Thanks, everybody. It was fun being Kyle for an hour.
Yeah. See ya.